He is 100% worth it.
He takes it to another level. Oh my God, I just fell in love with it.
Thanks so much, Jay.
Blew my mind. And it worked. I wanted to buy my thing.
Jay is, I would say, the Yoda of sales calls, man.
Just talking to Jay, he was so good at just taking what it is, seeing the opportunity and the value and the real reason we are making it.
Talk to Jay, because he got it. He can definitely help you out.
Talk to Jay. You're going to get a lot. You're going to gain a lot.
I would absolutely recommend him for any position that you have.
Jay's definitely the guy.
Give him the chance, give him the opportunity. You won't regret it.
He's good at what he does, so I highly recommend him, and I would book him before he is fully booked out.
Welcome to the Sales Ninja Show podcast, where we cut through the noise, ditch the outdated sales tactics, and show you how to close deals with confidence, strategy, and integrity. I'm Jay Lee, founder of Sales Ninja, and if you're tired of chasing leads, handling endless objections, and feeling like you have to convince people to buy, you're in the right place. Here, we do sales differently. We believe in positioning over pressure, where the right people lean in without the need for pushy tactics. That's the heart of the reverse glass selling method, a kingdom-driven approach built on 1 Peter 3:15, which is built on trust, service, and true connection. Because when you lead with value, sales becomes effortless. And when you sell more, you can give more. Today's guest is someone who has helped over 1,200 businesses turn social media into serious revenue, scaling engagement by up to 3,000% and driving 5 to 6 figures in monthly sales through strategic content and community building. She specializes in turning Facebook groups into high converting systems where audiences don't just watch, they buy. Her work has helped clients multiply opt-ins tenfold and finally connect content to cash flow in a way that actually works. She's also been featured by Traffic and Funnels, Superhuman, and Replace Your University, and brings a grounded, real-world perspective shaped by years of experience, family life, and resilience. Please welcome Luec. Hey, Syria, how you doing?
I'm fantastic, man. How are you?
Awesome. I actually forgot to ask you how to pronounce your last name, so that's the first question I'll have.
Yeah, it's Luec.
Okay, Luec. Okay, gotcha. So we have a lot in common. I mean, we have been married, respectively for over 2 decades, and we have a lot of children. You have 5, I've got 3. So did you always think that you're going to be having that many kids? Is that what you planned on when you were having kids?
Yeah, well, before we ever got married, we talked about kids, and we had said like 6 to 8.
Oh my goodness, really?
Yeah, we wanted a big family. My best friend growing up was one of 7. He was one of 4, and we wanted a big family. We love children, we love kids, and it was just on the radar for us. I think after actually having kids, and then a couple of our kids had some pretty big health issues, it was just like, I don't know that my heart could have taken it. It was a lot. And then my kids just kept getting bigger. My first kid was like 9 pounds, 14 ounces. And then my last one was 12 pounds, 5 ounces at birth. So they were just like little giants. And I was just like, after the last one being over 12 pounds, I was like, babe, if they just keep getting bigger, I think I'm done.
Oh my gosh, that's massive. Now,
yeah, it was like a 3-month-old. I birthed a 3-month-old.
Are we talking C-sections?
No. Natural home birth at home. When it comes to health, I'm a little crunchy. Other than the fact that like one of my kids had a brain tumor, and I definitely went to like neurology and neurosurgeons and specialist for that. And he also had burns on his hands from picking up a hot pan. And so he had 2nd and 3rd degree burns and had skin grafts.
Wow.
And so because of that, I went to like burn specialist and skin graft, people who could actually do skin grafts. Like I think hospitals and doctors and all of that are great for emergency situations, but in natural stuff that has happened for thousands and thousands of years, like when it comes to birth and whatever, I'm kind of crunchy about that. So we did at-home water birth.
Wow. Okay. I'm amazed. Because my wife with 3 kids, they were not 12 pounds. They were like 8, 7 to 8. So those are some big kids. Now, is it because you and your husband are taller or bigger? Is that how are you guys having these giant kids?
I am 5'6" and my husband is only 6 foot. So like, I don't
Wow.
feel like we're giants. Babies in his family are pretty big. Like I don't think that he was massive, but I know some of the siblings were like 9 and 10 pounds and stuff like that. I think I was only 8 pounds, 9 ounces at birth. So I don't know. I think it's genetics. And then I was super healthy during pregnancy. I just ate whenever I was hungry, you know, you just eat. And so the babies, and also too, my pregnancies lasted longer. So instead of 40 weeks, it was like 41 weeks and 42 weeks. My baby that was born at 39 weeks, because we induced with castor oil, which I would never recommend, and I would say don't ever do it. But the baby that I induced then was 8 pounds, 9 ounces. That was my smallest baby, and it was my second one. And yeah, so he was born at 39 weeks.
Okay, you caught me off guard. You induced your baby with castor oil. Now, who on earth? What? I've never heard of such thing. What is that?
So castor oil is just a natural, not herbal, but it's a natural supplement that you can take, and it's nasty. And when like I tried to mix it with orange juice, and so like for the longest time I hated orange juice because it's just like an oil that sits on top of the liquid. It doesn't mix in. And so it's just like you're swallowing oil, and I was not about it. I was not about it. I almost threw up having to take it. It was so nasty. So I don't recommend it. The labor that I had, the contractions were all right on top of each other. I never got rest. I never got a break. And when I had natural labor, I had like between every contraction, you like get rest because nothing's pushing.
Yeah.
And so it's like you actually get rest between all the contractions. And so yeah, I just went back to natural labor. I was just like, whatever.
Now, Sierra,
and that was also my longest labor too, because my first one was only like 13 hours. My second one, which was the castor oil inducement, was like 22 hours. My third one was an hour and a half, start to finish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that one was so fast. Oh, wait. Yeah, no, that one was an hour and a half. I think the next one was like 3 hours. And then the last one was like 2.5 hours. So like labor was so much faster and smoother, and I got rest in between contractions whenever I didn't induce. So I don't recommend inducing.
So this is the first Sales Ninja Show podcast where we jumped in to like birth, like childbirth. So this is a first. I love it. Now, speaking about healthy children and you being a healthy person, you also mentioned that you were an athlete, basketball, volleyball. I think I heard track. You're doing powerlifting. Tell us about how that plays in terms of discipline, and how does that play a role in work and business?
So for me, I had started my business 6 years ago, and I had just gotten to the point where I had an identity shift one day. I was looking around. After my last pregnancy, it was my hardest pregnancy. I'd gained the most, and then I had kept on the most weight after the baby was born. I thought it was just going to like fall off as you're nursing the child. It's supposed to just fall off, and it didn't. And so I had all this extra weight, and I got to the point where I was sitting down one day and I was asking my kid to go like put something in the kitchen or go throw something away for me. And it really wasn't that far away. And I was like, wow, why are you acting lazy? And my husband and I had this argument in like the first year of our marriage, actually the first few months of our marriage. And it was about utilizing the words acting versus being, because when you act like something, it's not saying that that's who you are. It's not saying that that's your identity. It's saying you're acting in a way that is like not normal, right? Whereas when you say being, you're saying that that is who you are, and you're like judging somebody's character flaws. And so acting versus being, I recognized that I was acting lazy, and I was like, but I'm not a lazy person. I'm an energetic person. And I was like, man, am I acting like an energetic person though? And so I started shifting that, and I started losing about like 5 pounds a month at that point, which was great. And then I got to the point where I knew I was done having kids. So I went and got surgery, abdominal surgery, got my abs stitched back together because they were completely separated because my babies were massive. And then after having my abs stitched back together, and they removed all the extra skin because, babies were massive. I then had this identity work that I had to do over, I didn't feel like I deserved it. I felt like I should have put that money into my children or into my family. And I had like this mom guilt. And so then I gained 20 pounds after surgery.
Wow.
And I was just like, okay, like this really sucks. And my business was doing great, mind you. My business is doing well. I'm crushing it. I'm making more money than my husband, which I'm sure was defeating for him because he's always been the breadwinner. And then suddenly I was making more and now I'm the breadwinner and he transitions out of the military and I'm making more and whatever else. We've got all these like weird dynamics happening in our relationship that we've never had to face before. And then I just start feeling really bad. I start carrying all this guilt and I gain weight so fast and I don't even know where it's coming from because it's not like I'm overeating. It's not like I'm doing anything crazy. And it was literally just like the stress and the guilt that I was carrying started manifesting in like weight in my body. And so I finally had this moment where I was like, my business is doing so well and my personal growth has been incredible. I worked with a lot of mindset coaches and I worked with a lot of mentors in business. And I was like, I think it's time to hire a mentor for my physical health. And so I was like, I want my body to align with what I'm doing in my business. And so I hired a personal trainer about 1.5 years ago and started working with her. And within 3 months, I had lost like 20 pounds at the time.
Wow.
I've lost like a total of 30 like since working with her. And I've just maintained it for months and months and months now. But within 3 months, I'd lost like 20 pounds. And I had abs for the first time in my life in 3 months. And I wasn't trying to get abs. Like I don't do any ab workouts.
What?
So I wasn't trying to get abs. It just like one day I was leaning over and I was like, whoa, what are those? And I was like, that's so cool. And so like now I'm like trying not to be the weird Christian who like wears crop tops all the time and whatever. Like I go to my son's soccer games and I feel bad because like it's a Christian soccer team. And I'm just like, I always have my abs hanging out because I have abs and I want to show it to the world because I'm so proud. And then I also feel bad at the same time because I'm like, I'm not trying to be promiscuous, guys. I really am not. I'm really proud of having abs. It's the coolest thing ever.
I love this. This conversation is hilarious. That's an interesting thing. Like I was reading, like when you were saying all this stuff about your abs and not, even working out your abs, I was looking at I was envisioning like a VSL funnel, like a paid ads funnel. You can get abs in 3 months without working on your abs. Whoa, what are those abs? Look at what you have. Look at what I have. It's like kind of like the Old Spice commercial, right?
Yeah.
That is amazing. So I love that you went through that, physical transformation. You already had the business transformation. You had the relational tension because, of kind of exceeding and kind of passing your husband in terms of being the breadwinner. That's a real thing, guys. And just everyone who's listening to the podcast, because the man is trying to be the leader of the household and they're trying to be the, quote unquote breadwinner. You look at the olden days in the 60s and the 70s, it's, there's all these stereotypes for a reason. And then when your wife is, making more than you, there's a sense of the husband, and I'm not speaking for all husbands, but there's a sense of like maybe shame or like, I'm not doing my part. There's a difference between a couch potato and an unemployed husband versus someone who's actually working like a dog. And then your wife is just crushing it, which is, I think it's amazing. I'm okay with that. But there's some guys who feel like, man, like I feel embarrassed that my wife's making more. How did you guys go and walk and talk through that, that tension between you and your husband with, even the revenue and how you're outperforming him, if that makes sense?
So I think it was a new dynamic for both of us, really, because before starting my business, I was just a stay-at-home mom. So like I was just staying at home with the kids and I was doing like little side hustles here and there because I just felt like I was supposed to be doing something to help like our family to expand. And there's this one scripture that talks about like, it's the prayer of Jabez where it talks about enlarging our territory. And I felt like I just felt this call towards that. Like I was supposed to be helping do that. And so I was doing little things here and there to help expand our income. And it just never was very much. And so I kind of felt insignificant. And I really do feel like if he hadn't been at the military at the time, because he was serving Uncle Sam, we were out in Oklahoma And if he hadn't been in the military, I would have deferred to him. I've always been that mentality from church where they tell like wives submit to your husbands and to build him up and boost him up and like to serve him and make sure that he's operating at full capacity. Like that's the woman that I strove to be our entire marriage. And if he hadn't been in the military at the time, and I was doing that for him in the military, but I would have deferred to him and I would have been like, okay, what business do you want to start? What business do you want to run? And how can I help support you? Because that's what we did before he joined the military. We had a construction company. He was the owner of the construction company. And then I helped with like business operations and marketing. And, then he joined the military, that business had to stop. So all the work that I was doing stopped and I was just stay-at-home mom. So I actually felt kind of worthless. So it was interesting, the dynamic. And if you knew the background that I grew up with, it makes sense that I wanted more for myself to add value to our family because my mom was always the breadwinner. My mom's best friend growing up, who was like a second mom to me, she had this amazing seamstress business. Like she was making 20 years ago or 30 years ago, she was making like 15, 10K wedding dresses.
What?
Yeah. Like she's this brilliant seamstress. The only reason she stopped is because she got carpal tunnel. But other than that, like she was making these amazing wedding dresses. She was sought after in the Dallas, Texas area. And she did amazing. And then my mom's mom was really big in business. Her and her husband, they had their own business together. And my mom's mom was really good at sales and always did stuff like that. And I guess my bio dad, who died when I was like a year old, his mom was a stay-at-home mom, did all the things, made the food, took care of the dad who like ran the businesses and stuff like that. So I saw that dynamic there growing up, but I wasn't as close to it as I was to my mom. So of course it makes sense that I wanted to pursue my own thing. But again, if my husband hadn't been in the military, I would have stepped into his shadow and stayed in his shadow. And so I couldn't do that. So I stepped out of my husband's shadow, started my own business. And I'm so glad that I did, because I remember that I told my husband, it was actually an interesting dynamic. We had just gotten approved for these really big credit cards because we fixed our credit. It was actually really easy to do. It only took a few months to fix our credit. We fixed our credit, had amazing credit scores. I got a 20K credit card for the first time. And then I jumped into this 10K mastermind, and I told him I wanted to jump into it. And I talked to him about it because 10K is kind of a lot to spend.
Yeah.
And especially when I'm not making any money and I feel like all the money is his, which is a weird dynamic, right? When you decide that you're going to share income, but then because you're not working, you feel like all the money is the other person's. That's a weird dynamic.
Yeah.
So I told him, I was like, hey, I really want to do this. And he's like, well, am I going to have to pay for it? And I was like, oh, knife to the gut. And I was like, no, I was like, if I can learn just enough to know how to make payments on this credit card and pay this off myself, it'll be worth it. And so I jumped in, and I actually didn't get my first client right away. I had like 10 sales calls, and they were all no's. And my first 10 sales calls were all no's. And then my 11th one, I didn't even know it was a sales call. I thought it was just a connection call. And they were like, yeah, I want your offer. And then I was like scrambling to like send a Stripe invoice for the first time ever. And then they were like, hey, can I split the payments? And I was like, yeah. And so I just split it in half because I didn't know you're supposed to charge more for payment plans and whatever. And so I collected $1,900 in my 10th week, which was the very last week of the mentorship that I was a part of.
Wow.
And I just remember being so excited about that 1,900. And then the next month, my client that I was working with within 2 weeks had already made 10K from his Facebook group, like from a completely dead group that he hadn't posted in 2 years. It had like 2,000 members, completely dead, 0 engagement, 0 active members. And within 2 weeks, he pulled 10K from it. And so I was like, cool, I'm raising my prices. And so I raised my prices, and I got another client that next month. And then I collected 7,700 in month number 2. In month number 3, I picked up 3 more clients, collected 12,000. In month number 4, I picked up another 3 clients, collected 20,000 that month. And then in my first 6 months of business, I'd collected 100,000. And I was just like, okay, this is real. And this is really helping my family. Like, I bought my first car by myself because I'd always had to get co-signers in the past. So I bought my first car. I bought new furniture for our family, which we'd never done. We'd always gotten like secondhand stuff. So it was just like, new clothes, new everything. Like we just had extra for the first time in our lives, and it completely transitioned our mindset and how we treated money. I realized I had to build a new relationship with money too, because we were so used to living off of 100% of our income. So anytime, the way that we would treat it is anytime money would come in, even if it was extra, okay, cool, where are we going to spend it was the question we would ask. And that's what I think most people who are either middle class or lower class, that they get stuck in this cycle of 100% of the money that comes in gets spent out immediately. Whereas when I started doing speaking, like live speaking, I went to this one event probably 3 years ago, and there was somebody who was this investor who's like multi-millions in his business, because he's in commercial real estate, and he was sharing how he splits up his money. He lives off of 1% of his income. And I thought at the time, okay, if he's living off of 1% of his income, and then he showed where all the other percentages go, and it's like 11 different investments, and he does a certain percentage to each investment. So any money that comes in gets split up into those different percentages, right? And so I'm sitting there listening to him at the time, and I'm like, okay, so once I'm making more money, then I can start. And that was the mistake that I made back then. And it wasn't until more recently that I realized, okay, we need to transition to living off of 80% of our income and start there. And so 20% like gets set aside for other things. And then we need to shift to 70% or 60 or 50. And so if we shift to where we are only living off of 50% of our income, well, if we don't have enough income to cover the bills, what do? We go get more jobs, we go sign more clients, we figure out a way to make more money, as opposed to just going and pulling from our savings or our investment accounts to cover bills. Because that's what you do in life, is when you need more, you go get more. That's what you do. It's like if you run out of milk, you don't be like, oh no, I guess we just don't have milk now. You go to the store and get more milk, right? And so when you start treating your money like that and you start budgeting like that, if you're living off of only 50% of your income and you know the other 50%, so if you get $500 in, 250 is what you live off of, and 250 goes somewhere else. If you get 5,000, 2,500 and 2,500, right? So you're only living off of the 50%. So it doesn't matter how much money you're bringing in and when. You get 2.5 million, you're not just going to go spend 2.5 million, you have it allocated to different percentages. And so that way, if you have variable money coming in, which a lot of entrepreneurs do, I mean, if people work a regular job, it's not that way. And it's hard to think like that because you just have very budgetable income. But whenever you're an entrepreneur, there's a lot of odd jobs that come in. Sometimes there's like, for example, like we've done really well with our taxes every year, and we've typically gotten a return back. Just because of how we file. Mm-hmm. So that might be unheard of in Canada. I don't know. Like one of my Canadian clients told me like a year or so ago, he was like, hey, I'm super glad that we did a couple posts for this. We'd done a couple posts for some low ticket thing. We'd already had like 20 or 30 sales into the low ticket thing. And our goal was to hit 100. And we'd only done 2 posts so far. And I had like 2 weeks worth of posts to put up. He's like, but I just got my Canadian tax bill and it was like 60 grand. And so he was like, I need money for the high ticket offer now. And so we pivoted to the high ticket offer. And then I think we got him to like 90K months within like 3 or 4 months when we pivoted. But, wow. But yeah, it's like, who knows what his tax bracket was the next year.
Okay.
Hopefully he has a really good tax strategist. I don't know if Canada even allows you to do tax strategy or if you just have to like eat it.
No, they do, but the tax is high depending on how you're structured. Yeah, so there's a lot of amazing things that you just said here, and I want to go back a little bit because, being a pastor for 10 years, being a Christian entrepreneur, a man of faith, I heard you talk about, earlier today about the whole scripture, wives submit to your husbands, and that can be super sensitive. So for some people who are listening to this podcast, because maybe in the church or maybe the church leaders have enforced this quote unquote scripture down your throat. And actually, if you look at the original text, which is the Greek, wives submit to your husbands, the word submit is actually a mutual submission. I don't hear this taught very often. So as wives submit to your husbands, husbands must submit to your wives. That's why it says that husbands, you are to love your wife as Christ loved the church, that you're willing to deny yourself, take up the cross and die for her. So there's actually a bit of a greater sacrifice because the call for the husband is to die or be willing to die and love his wife so much that he's willing to give his life and lay down his life just as Christ laid his life down for us. So that passage, I just wanted to unpack a little bit, because when we hear wives submit to your husbands and, like you said, I want to serve him so that he'll be lifted up, that context is actually completely incorrect in the sense that husbands must serve their wives as their wives submit to their husbands. So there's a mutual and equal balance of leadership and of submission. It's not just a one-way street. So I just wanted to clear that up, because in my marriage with my wife, I call her literally my better half, and I don't mean to say that metaphorically. She literally is my better half, like in terms of her ability to take care of our 3 children, her ability to keep the home in place. She's an accountant. She's a chartered accountant, so her financial skills are just light years ahead of me. And I heard you also say, I'm just a stay-at-home mom. I want to acknowledge the fact that that word "just" is it's untapped. Like, being a stay-at-home mom is harder than any job there is. And I've met several that are single moms. If my wife is gone for an evening, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do these single moms do this? Right? One evening with 3 kids. Like, they're doing this for decades. I want to acknowledge you as a mom of 5, that the work that you did, the wife of noble character, the ministry that God laid on your heart was the most important thing. So being just a stay-at-home mom is incredible.
And so I also want to share that when I talk about stories from the past, I am stating it as how I felt back then.
Sure.
And so when I say just a stay-at-home mom, that was definitely how I felt back then.
Yeah.
And I didn't feel extraordinary, and I didn't feel great most of the time. And I do take a lot of personal ownership on that, because I have new understanding now. You know how hindsight's always 20/20, right? We can always see really clear when we look back.
Right.
But back then, I definitely had a very different perspective. And one of the things that I recognize now in reflection is how codependent I was, and how I didn't know how to operate by myself very well. And so there were a few things, and like, I feel like Myers-Briggs actually saved my marriage at one point,
Really?
because there's this really cool article that I found more than a decade ago. And it basically states that every single Myers-Briggs personality, or the 16 different personalities that there are, that they have stressors and they have stress relievers. And then they have, this is what it looks like when you're at your max stress. This is what you tend to do when you're at your max stress level. And so I didn't know it at the time. And I would be at home all day with the kids. I'd be taking care of the kids. We'd do homeschooling. We'd do some cleaning. I'd mainly make sure that they were alive and fed, and that I got them outside to like get exercise and stuff like that, so that they'd actually go to sleep at night. Basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
Stuff that I just didn't know how to better manage back then, that I know how to better manage now. Like, I can do so much more now. My capacity has increased so much since I started working with mindset coaches, and I started treating my lifestyle like I'm an athlete. It's like, I want to be an athlete of motherhood. I want to be an athlete in business. I want to be an athlete of these things, because when you're desiring to be the best, you treat it different, and you have a different mentality and a different identity. And so when you operate from whatever identity you hold, you can know what your identity is that you hold by the results that you're getting in your life. So at the time, I would do things all day, and I would feel like I did so much that day, but the house would be a little bit of a mess when my husband got home. And he'd come home, and the very first thing he did was he started like doing the dishes and washing the laundry. And he would just be kind of like, he looked angry, and he would just be storming around the house cleaning. And I thought that he was judging me at the time, because I just didn't know better.
Yeah, sure.
And when I found the Myers-Briggs thing, and I realized he's an ENTJ, and the way that ENTJs react to stress is they clean. And they just tidy up an area, because it puts them back in control of something that they can manage. When I realized that it was just the way that he handled the stress of the day. So it wasn't him being stressed about us. It wasn't him being mad that I didn't do the dishes. It was him just trying to manage his stress of the day. And so he would come home and he would clean, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, you did that. Do you want to do this too? And I started offering him other ways that he could de-stress.
Did that make him mad?
No. No. And he didn't, because it helped him to de-stress and he was okay with it. And so, like I said, I feel like that one article, and I'm happy to share that too.
Yeah.
That one article like saved our marriage, I feel.
Wow. How Myers-Briggs saved my marriage by marrying an ENTJ husband. I'm always seeing these tabloid inquiry. Like, that's beautiful and amazing. I wasn't aware of that's how in terms of the max stress, how they manage it to take control. That's a very interesting observation. So much in here that's so good. So your grandma, if I heard you say mom's mom, was good at sales. So you have a family lineage, I mean, of incredible pedigree, but also your bio dad, you said he passed away when you were 1 year old. And, you know, people say that there's a lot of family issues and brokenness that come from, you know, daddy issues or lack thereof. How did that affect you not growing up with a dad?
Well, so my mom remarried about a year later. So I grew up with a dad.
Okay.
I had a stepdad. I call him dad.
Yeah.
And we have a really great relationship now. When I was younger, we didn't, because I knew he wasn't my dad. And then I felt like he was taking my mom away from me most of the time and taking her time and attention. And so like for the first few years of my life, when I was really young, I hated him. I remember hating him. And then I grew to like him at some point. And then I grew to love him, because my mom hated discipline. She didn't grow up, they didn't spank in her family. And so, but she knew that I kind of needed it. And my dad grew up with very harsh discipline.
Oh.
And so, I say my dad and I mean my stepdad, but, he grew up with very harsh discipline. So they found a happy medium, and he was the one who would spank me. Which didn't make me love him more. Like I think they didn't just realize the dynamic there.
Yeah.
And so it took me a while, but when I was a teenager, I had some really hard moments in things that happened to me, or what it felt like happening to me. You know how we say like, it's not happening to you, it's happening for you. It definitely felt like it was happening to me in the moment.
Yeah.
And my dad was there. My dad was there for me in a really big way. And that was when I grew to love him, is because he actually showed up for me.
That's a huge thing. That's amazing. So being a dad of, you know, teenage kids, that's hard, because and you probably know, having 5 kids, that there's a certain age, you know, like 12, 13, at least with my girls, they become a little bit more sassy. They're trying to find their own identity and their voice. They get a bit more absorbed with some of the pressures of school and relationships and, you know, puberty and hormones and all that stuff. So sometimes I feel like just a chauffeur. Sometimes I'm like, my kids don't talk to me, and I'm like, what happened? Right. I just want to like hug you and cradle you in my arms. And, you know, that's why at church, I always try to steal as many babies as I can, so that I can just feel the warmth of their, you know, they're just completely entrusting. So when you're going through this with your dad, who, you know, you had a pretty tough upbringing, he disciplined you, spanked you, you were in a couple of hard moments. Was there a pivotal moment, or was it a gradual likening and loving that made your dad have that relationship with you? Was it just one story or one moment where like I hit a boiling point or a breaking point, and this is where my dad pull through in a big way?
Yeah, so this is really personal, and I've never shared this openly with people who aren't friends, because it is really personal, and it might like trigger warning for other women out there.
Yeah.
So when I was 13, I had a boyfriend. I wasn't supposed to have a boyfriend. My parents told me not to, and I had one anyway. I was always kind of a rebel. And I had gone over to his house with my cousins. And while I was there, he ended up forcing me to kiss him and putting his hand down my pants in a way that I didn't want. And I tried to stop him, and I wasn't stronger than him. And so it was really uncomfortable, but I broke up with him. Didn't tell my parents, because I wasn't supposed to be in a relationship with anybody. And he started calling and leaving these really nasty voicemails to get me in trouble. And my parents, I thought I was going to be in so much trouble. I thought that they were going to discipline me. I thought that they were going to take away all of my privileges or send me off to boarding school or something like that. My parents never would have done that. But at the time, I just didn't know. I just thought the worst.
Of course. Yeah.
And my dad like stood up for me and called his parents and talked to his parents and just held me and was there for me. And I feel like that was where I realized, oh, he's not just trying to make my life miserable. Like he actually cares. And I think that that was like the pivotal point. So it was when I was 13 and that 12-year-old kid did that stuff. It's crazy that a 12-year-old kid was stronger than me.
I'm so sorry to hear that. I mean, I have a 12-year-old right now who's turning 13. So that hits home. That's and she's a girl. So that's tough. I can't even imagine, like, you know, being the dad. I would have been like, oh boy, just all these feelings come inside of me of what I want to do and what would probably put me in jail. Right.
Well,
so,
I'm kind of a mama bear now too, because of the experiences that I went through. When something happens to one of my daughters, like I see red.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm like, cool. Can we go back to Old Testament? Like, what do we need to do here? Like take up our swords. Do we need to go cut off some foreskins? Pardon my language. Sorry guys, but that's Old Testament.
Oh, I'm there with you, girl. I'm there with you. Like you pick your weapon of choice of what you want for your punishment, right? Oh, wow. I love that your dad did that. I a few leaders, men, will do that. And I love that he did that for you. And that's incredibly redemptive. I love that, you've been able to, let's talk about business. Here's a sharp pivot, but we'll make it as smooth as possible.
The sales
the
podcast
dead face,
we're talking about.
Yeah. From foreskins to Facebook.
Wow. Okay. Maybe not that headline. Maybe not.
Okay. Yeah.
Maybe
we'll worry about that later. So the dead Facebook group, you had a client that had a dead Facebook group, so I'll put my own, scenario in the way. I think I've got less than, maybe 1,600 to 2,000 members in my Facebook group. It's quite dead. And you've helped resuscitate and resurrect this client's Facebook group that was inactive and dead for, you said how long? I can't remember how long you said there was.
It was 2 years. It was 2 years, like zero post, zero activity from the group for 2 years.
Okay, that's pretty close to mine. I do have automated, posts, Monday wins and all this stuff, and people are actually still putting stuff in there, which is surprising to me.
So it's not completely dead.
It's not completely dead, but I feel like it's dead because I'm not doing much. So I feel like I've.
Can we pause for a second and just acknowledge that? Because I bet a lot of people feel like that. Like, you feel like something is dead because you're not doing much.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times in business as entrepreneurs, we create fires where there are none because we don't feel like we're efforting enough.
Yeah.
But there's scripture that says, the blessing of the Lord, it makes us rich, and there's no sorrow added with it. So we shouldn't have to toil to have abundance. But a lot of times we feel like we're supposed to, maybe because of the way we were raised or past experiences, but we shouldn't have to toil to have abundance.
Oh, amazing. That's so true because, being born and raised in an immigrant family, Korean Canadian family where it's performance driven, right? You got 92% on the math exam. Where's the 8%, right? You didn't get a medical school. Oh boy. I don't want to tell our friends, right? It's kind of embarrassing. So there is that as well, the hangups and the mindset and the, growing up that way. So can you walk us through, because there are many people who are listening who have given up on Facebook groups, like even myself. I'll just admittedly confess my sin and say, like, how did you help them go from this inactive, dead Facebook group to, I can't remember, was it 10K the next month?
Yeah. So it's actually really easy. It's way easier than you think.
Okay.
I approach everything like we're in person, right? Before my husband joined the military, I was actually helping a lot of local churches and nonprofits and small businesses that were all local to increase. None of them had a budget for marketing or anything like that. So we couldn't do ads or billboards or flyers or whatever, put stuff in the mailers and mail out and whatever. They didn't have money for it. And so we just had to do grassroots movements. We had to have events that were exciting enough to want to attract a local audience. And we also had to have like word of mouth. People had to have such a great experience that they wanted to naturally share about it with other people. And so that's what we started to create in the online space too. It's we treat groups the same way that we treat in person, right? And most people lose that. And I think that's why most people struggle with like messenger conversations or sales conversations that are online, is because they forget that when we're online, we're humans dealing with real humans. And so you just need to treat people like you're in person. And the only other thing that I would say is that if you're having a conversation online, just be very direct. There's all this hype from like network marketing teachings where they're like, you know, oh, you just have a regular conversation with them and then you invite them to things. And it just feels like a bait and switch. We don't want that. You want to be very direct. Offer them something of value. If they want it, they will say yes. If they don't, they will say no. Neither of you will waste time chit-chatting about stuff that neither of you care about. And let's just be honest. If you haven't talked to your friend in 10 years and you have other friends that you have to take care of, you don't have the capacity to care about whether or not they went to the supermarket yesterday. So you don't want that chit-chat. Like you just have zero capacity for it. We don't have capacity to care about everyone's personal lives in business if we're going to do volume. So when it comes to your Facebook group, the way that we went about reviving it is we start with having a welcome strategy. So how do we get people into the group, new members? So new fresh members into the group actually sparks this really cool energy. It's just like a baby discovering things new for the first time. Like, you ever see a baby who discovers that the light can go on and off?
Yeah.
Like, it's so exciting to watch because they're just like, oh, like it's really fun. So they bring this like fresh energy, and that energy is palpable and communicable. So other people feel that same energy that those new people are feeling when they discover something for the first time. So bringing new people in is something that's key and pivotal to building and boosting up that energy. But even if you don't get that, if you have the welcome strategy and you do like a reintroduction strategy with it. So it's like you put up the welcome post, you're like, hey, we're going to be changing this group. We're going to do some really cool, fun things. You lead with the value that you're offering. And you bring that to the people and you let them know, hey, we're going to be doing this, this, and this. Would you like to be a part of it? And you just send an invitation and you invite them to be a part of it. And my favorite way to do that is to do like a live event of some sort that is just for fun. That's just a value add. And you can always pitch at the end and sell something, which is what I recommend my clients to do, to pitch at the end, but lead with really high value, not with, I'm going to talk about the things like webinars. You remember the whole like webinar craze that swept everything, and it really just burned the fields for everybody else because they would talk about stuff but give you no actual value. You would leave there and you wouldn't have any actions that you could take that would make your life better or your business better. It was terrible, like the whole webinar craze. And the only way that you would get the actions is if you paid.
Right.
And I think that that's so crappy. Pardon my language. I think that that's really terrible thing to do to people, to make them sit there for an hour. They're literally gifting you an hour of their time and their attention, which is so valuable. And then they get nothing in return. It's a really bad exchange. And so you want to give them something of value. So I always have my clients lead with some kind of a quick win. Like, what's a little thing that they could do or shift that would actually transform their life? Because that builds so much trust. And so if we lead with that, it's a really easy way to revive the group. Now, granted, if you stop talking to the members, if you stop posting for a while, the group might die again. And that's okay, because in this term of life and death, when we're online, they're not actually dying. It's just like, cool, we're just going to reset the level and we're going to just play the level again. You know, it's just like a video game, you know? So it's like, it's not actually dead. You're just resetting the level. And so you can come back in and you can do the revival strategy over and over and over again, and it'll work every single time. Because the point is that it's essentially just like having a list of actual people, because these are real people. Everyone who joins your group is a real human. And it's this list of people who are gathering for one very specific topic, whatever your group is about. They're gathering for that topic. So you have this very targeted audience of people. Why would you ever just walk away from that? It just doesn't make any sense at all. It's like having emails or phone numbers for leads and then just deciding to throw them in the trash. It It doesn't make sense. And it's super easy to revive. And if you are giving life to Facebook, Facebook will naturally give life back to you. And they will start recommending more of those posts. So like my favorite one to do is the viral question. It's just basically like a simple, easy to answer, fun question, something super, super easy to answer. So like if it's a binary question, like a yes or a no, or pick one of these answers, it makes it really easy. People don't have to think about it. They don't have to get in their head and come up with an idea. They can just pick one really fast and answer really fast. Those are the best way to just boost engagement super fast. And you can do that inside of your group. I gave one to, you were talking about Dave and Lucy before.
Yeah,
I gave one
right.
to their group and told everybody to go post it. So if you want, I can give you one that's different.
Yes, please.
Okay. So the one I did for them, and I'll share the one I did for them, but everyone went and posted it already. So we're not going to post that one. Okay. We're going to wait at least like a month or two before we post that one. So the one I gave to them was on a scale of 1 to 10. And this is one that one of my clients did in a 200,000 member group. And he had 2,400 comments within 24 hours. It's pretty cool. He had to hire a VA to help him manage the comments.
Wow.
It was crazy. So, so that one was on a scale of 1 to 10. How much did your dad teach you about fatherhood?
Wow.
Very controversial. It was either a less than 0 or it was a 1,000 or something like that. There was no in between.
Yeah. That's cool.
So super controversial, but also easy to answer. Super easy for people to answer. So then that one has worked phenomenally well for pretty much everyone who does it.
Right.
So hold on. I'm actually going to go to my list and I'm going to pull open one that I know does really well every time. Have you ever engaged on a post that's something like your what is it? So I did it for a recording company of mine. Like one of my clients that was a recording company. We did like your new DJ name is.
Oh, cool.
But there's like your rapper name is Lil plus the color of your shirt and the last food you ate or something like that.
Yeah.
You can do that for literally anything. So we did DJ name. You could do, your rapper name. You could do your coach name. You could do the title of your next book is. That one's a really fun one to do because it's just fun. Because it's like, what's the color of your shirt? You can just look and see what's the last food you ate. You just remember the last food you ate or the last drink you drank or whatever. And so I don't even know terracotta. What is this color?
Yeah.
Like the terracotta last thing I drank was coffee.
Yeah.
So little terracotta coffee.
Nice.
Or if it was like last food I ate, I don't even remember, but let's just pretend it was an apple. So like little terracotta apple, like it'd just be like super silly for no reason. And some people's will be hilarious. And so it's just something that people can have fun with. I also have like a bunch of, I've been saving these for 6 years. So I have a bunch of memes that it's like, you could do brighten my day. And this one would be a fun trend to do for a little bit. So let's do this one. So brighten my day, share the first photo from your camera roll that has the color and you pick whatever color you want. So it could be yellow, it could be blue, it could be red. You pick whatever color because people will engage on that multiple times.
Wow.
Because they want to go see pictures in their own camera roll.
Right.
So people will engage with that multiple times. And it's fun for them. It's easy for them to do. It's easy to engage with. So that one would be a really easy one to do. That one usually gets high engagement. I remember when it first came out, it was like that particular post was like 9 years ago.
Wow.
But it still gets engagement. It still gets engagement because it's fun.
It's timeless. It's classic.
Yeah, it's fun. I think the biggest thing is people just want to have fun, especially when they come to social media. They want to have fun. And so if you can introduce something into their life that is fun, you're going to win every time.
Amazing. We have to do a part 2 if you're open to it because I have so many more questions and we run out of time. My DJ name based on the color of shirt that I'm wearing, what I last drank and what I ate is red. And I made a funky monkey smoothie and I fast, which means I didn't eat anything. So I'm red funky monkey fast.
There you go. That does sound like a DJ name, doesn't it?
Your story is incredible, Sierra. Your faith is, inspiring. I love that you are a mother of 5 and I mean, you've had giant children and have experiences as a stay-at-home mom with a military veteran to going through all the, relational, marriage, emotional, even the guilt, and overcoming them and triumphing over them, which is incredible. And here's a lightning round just to kind of ask you questions. And I'm going to ask you every question, every guest that I have, I always ask them, what does it mean to sell more, to give more? That's going to be the last question. What does it mean to sell more, to give more? But the lightning round is just questions that come at the top of your head. So here are a list of them. So what's the best advice for converting followers into buyers?
Lead with value. Like give them value, give them what they want. A lot of times people they'll state things from their perspective. We talk like we're from the finish line and we know the end from the beginning. So we always have a solutions focused way that we communicate in our copywriting, in our sales calls and all of that. And they don't understand. We have to talk in their language at their level. So you have to put things in their words. And I think that that's the biggest point. And it's not valuable to them if they don't understand it. So they need to be able to understand it. So you have to say the pain in their words and say the result in their words.
Well said. That's what Rachel Peterson was saying last week. She was saying, know the conversation that's going in their heads. So that's well said. One tool that you cannot live without.
Tool? I'm like coffee.
Oh, sorry. Let's go AI. Let's go AI tool.
AI tool. Okay. So my favorite AI tool right now is GenSpark, which actually combines a bunch of AIs together. And so it will literally, you can give it the stupidest prompt. And I do mean stupid. I mean, it's like, I'll say, hey, I really want a guide that looks really cool. Like I created it on Canva, but it answers this. So can you do deep research on my target market? This is my business. This is my target market, and create a guide about XYZ. And it'll spend about 5 to 10 minutes doing deep research. And then it will have a fully created and crafted guide for me. And it'll use whatever AI tools it thinks it needs to be able to accomplish that. It has access. I know for sure it has access to ChatGPT and Claude. I think it also uses a few others. I think it might also have access to Gemini. I know it has access to Nano Banana. It has access to, I want to say 10 different AI tools that create images. And so I've had it create like carousels and videos. And I mean, it just literally can do anything. So GenSpark AI is a really good one.
So is that a suite of AI tools in one?
Yeah, it accesses all of them to have like a super agent. So it's like a super agent AI.
I think I heard of one like that, Galaxy AI or something like that has like 20 or 30 in one or something like that. It sounds like something similar to that. Favorite way to create content quickly, is that through GenSpark as well, or?
My favorite way to create content quickly is I have an entire arsenal of templates. And so sometimes I might take it to AI, but most of the time I just go fill in the blanks. We do so yesterday I have this program called Content Conversion Lab that's only $97 a month. And so once a month we sit down and I bring all the templates that they need for their nurture content for the next month. And we spend about an hour to 2 hours and we just go through and edit all the content and customize it. But I have these templates that are already proven to get a lot of engagement. So I'd rather take content that's proven than have AI try to create something out of nothing.
That's smart. What's the most underrated growth strategy right now?
Being a guest speaker for large audiences that are active.
And one habit that drives your success?
I do this morning formula, and then it's like my morning routine, and then my reflection process at the end of the day and at the end of the week. I learned this from Taylor Welch inside of the Traffic and Funnels before Traffic and Funnels got shut down by the FTC. I learned it from him, and that was probably the biggest life transformation I'd ever had. I tried so many other planners, and none of them ever worked for me. I couldn't stick with them, and it's the only one I've ever been able to stick with. And it really did transform my life.
Now, is that like a journal that you buy physically, or is it the way he taught it in terms of reflection?
It's definitely the way that he taught it. Most journals have a lot of extra stuff that doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And so the very first thing that we did was kind of like the Ivy League principle that like Earl Nightingale and Bob Proctor and all of the great older generation taught. And it's essentially you pick so Taylor did it easier, but they said you pick your 6 activities that you want to get done for the next day. And then you organize them in the order of priority of what's most important and absolutely needs to be done first and what's the least important and can be done last. And then you go about your day and you work on number 1 until number 1 is done. And you do not move to number 2 or 3 until number 1 is done. And if you don't get everything done on that list, there's no other way that you could have. And so you just go through your list and then you carry over to the next day and you make a new list and you go day by day. I think also, what's his name? Steve Jobs. I think Steve Jobs lived by a very similar principle where he would only focus on what are the biggest needle movers that I need to get done today. And he just did that on a daily basis. And so even though he was apparently a very, not very high empathy person, I'm super high empathy, but he still we can learn great principles from these other people who are very successful. And I think that is really important. Like what's most important to you. And then if you don't feel fulfilled because all you're doing is the business activities, I actually learned this one from, I want to say it was Napoleon Hill from his 13 Keys of Success, but it might've been somebody else. But I think it came from Napoleon Hill. And he said to backtrack the things that actually fulfill you. So what are the things that fulfill you? So at the end of the day, like when you sit down and do your reflection about like, what am I grateful for today? And, you know, what would I have changed about today or whatever that people usually do? Instead, be like, what felt really fulfilling today? Because a lot of times we don't focus on what feels fulfilling to us. And it's like, what would feel really fulfilling tomorrow? Because sometimes we'll just do the activities because we know they need to get done, but we don't feel fulfilled. And if we do that on a daily basis, we start to lose ourselves. And so we have to feel really fulfilled in our work. We have to feel really fulfilled in our relationships and in our family and in our personal life. Like we can't just lose ourselves because we have kids, because the kids are going to move out someday and they're not going to want to be around you all the time, which is really sad. But I have a 19-year-old, so I know that it happens. And I have another kid who just turned 18. They get out and they leave.
Yes.
And they don't want to spend all their time with you. And then you're like, I'm sorry, little kids, like I'm going to be so clingy to you for the next few weeks. I'm so sorry.
Smother you. I'm going to smother you with love.
I'm going to love you so much and so hard and so fast. And it's going to be great for me.
Yeah. My wife thinks I'm weird that way too. Yeah.
Yeah. But the thing is like someday they're going to move out and you're not going to have any more kids at home. And what are you going to do? Just like hate your life until your grandkids come over? Like, no, it's like you have to be doing things that fulfill you as a person. And same thing, like in a marriage, you can't just be completely dependent on your spouse to make you happy. That's so much pressure on another person. It's like at the end of the day, you lay your head on that pillow. And even though your spouse is right next to you, you are alone in your thoughts and you have to feel good about yourself. And so you have to find things that make you feel fulfilled each day. And I don't say happy because you don't necessarily need to feel happy. Sometimes we can feel satisfied without feeling happy per se, you know?
Yeah. Well said. And the last question is, what does it mean for you to sell more, to give more?
They say out of the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. So whatever you have in abundance is what you have to give. And if you don't have abundance, you have nothing to give. You can't give what you don't have. So you have to sell more to be able to give more. And so I work with a lot of people who have really big giving hearts and they're like, oh, it's not about the money for me. I don't want to make more money. And it's like, okay, well, how many other people do you want to bless? And if you had more money, what could you do with it? Oh, well, rich people are, you know, sometimes evil and money corrupts you. And I'm like, money doesn't change your heart. It's just like any other kind of drug in the world. It amplifies what's already there. So if you are a good person and you are a giver, and you would do so much good with it, why shouldn't you be the one who has the money?
Yeah, well said. We got to do a part 2. We run out of time. Thank you for tuning everyone to the Sales Ninja Show podcast. Go apply what you learned from Sierra because it's going to help transform your next sales conversation, help revive and resuscitate your Facebook group like mine. I'm going to go to work because I have new practices that Sierra shared today that I'm going to practice. and lead with clarity, calm, and service. If you're ready to master faith-driven sales psychology and close high-ticket deals with integrity, head over to gosalesninja.com and book a free Sales Ninja audit to see how we can move the needle in your business. We're here to help you sell with confidence and serve from a place of purpose. Remember, your work is stewardship. Keep your eyes on God. Stay faithful in the small steps, as you've heard Sierra share. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you, Sierra, so much. You were amazing. Let's sell more so that we can give more.
Appreciate you.
Likewise. Sierra, you